Welcome one and all. It's time for yet another Warhammer the Old World Battle Report. Warriors of Chaos versus Warriors of Chaos. A Chaos Civil War with a dragon on each side, but other than that, two quite different lists. So, let us dive in. In fact, the thumbnail you can see, it's got chariots on it. That's because I have recently painted 2 chariots to add to my army, so they're going straight in to this list for their first ever game. We'll see how they do. Okay, here is the overview of the battlefield. So, 2,000 points. We're playing open battle, but as you can see by that card in the middle there, we're using the terrain layout for command and control. And my opponent's army clearly has more infantry than mine, or more infantry blocks. I've got the biggest unit of infantry. And we both have a dragon. Interesting. So let's go through the lists and then I'll tell you why we ended up with this terrain layout as well, because there was tactical thought put into this. So into my list, let's go through them in the order they appear. We've got a lone Shartak with a great weapon, and of course for that juicy 2-up save, the Shartak also has the fancy suit of armour. Then it's the blackened plate, I think that one is. Let me see. My new recruit app decided it was just going to reload at this critical moment. Then we've got 3 Dragon Ogres with no Shartak, because I don't want their champion to get challenged out by something nasty. They'd rather just be able to swing back with whoever's alive. Then, part of the core, we've got this big block of 26 Chaos Warriors with hand weapon and shield, and the Mark of Chaos Undivided. And in there, we've got a Sorcerer Lord who has the Law of Demonology, Mark of Nurgle, and 1 Favour of the Gods reroll, Law Familiar, Spell Familiar, and Ruby Ring of Ruin. So extra spell, choose your spells, and that juicy bonus Fireball. Still staying away from the Infernal Puppet for now. Also, we've got my Chaos Lord, the General, on a dragon, obviously, with a flail, which I'm sticking with for the time being, because it frees up magic item points in other areas. Also got Mark of Nurgle on this character as well. Seems to be the auto choice for characters that think they might get in combat, and they don't want to be punched too hard by anything. So, re-roll some of those hits, why don't you? 1 Favour of the Gods, re-roll, Crown of Everlasting Conquest, and Enchanting Aura. So it's the triple save Dragon of Doom. So from shooting, it'll be a 4+, 5+, 5+ save. In combat, he's probably going to be using the flail, at least in the first round. So that means he wouldn't be able to also use the shield, so his save would drop down a little bit there. Then... and I actually mean it would be a 3+ from shooting then, wouldn't it? Because he's got full plate armor and a shield, but they're not in combat. Then we've also, oh yeah, the other ability that I mentioned there is the take away strike first from the opponent, or if they don't have that, give them strike last. So always very nice to have that on your Dragon Lord. We've got 5 Chaos Knights, who are Mark of Chaos Undivided, with an Icon of Darkness, so -1 to hit them with shooting, won't come up in this game. Oh, by the way, the Knights and the Chaos Warriors units both have Brazen Collars for magic resistance too, which could be quite a big deal. I was finding that the Knights are the juiciest target for people's magic missiles, because the Chaos Warriors have a lot of bodies, and the Dragon Ogres have a ward save against magic missiles. And with the Knights only being 1 wound each, they really don't want to get Fireball or anything like that. So that's why I'm thinking Brazen Collar on there. Give them a bit of magic resistance. Then, into special, we've got the 2 chariots on the hill, and they are the same. Just normal chariots, nothing fancy going on here at all. Got impact hits, and that's pretty much what they do. That's their trick. Do impact hits. And got a sneak look at the hobby that's gone on here as well. We've got Rory and Gilthos in the chat. Good evening. So this is the standard build of the 1998 Chaos Chariot, minus the scythes, because I think they stick out too much. I do have the scythes, but I think it's going to be too awkward to field them in battle with the scythes attached, so I haven't used them. And Benny is in there as well. Good evening. So this is the standard way to build it. I'm going to do a video when I do my kind of expanding my Warriors of Chaos army video. I'll go into more detail on building these models, but there is pinning that's gone on here. And then this one could sometimes be used as a BSB because I've put a banner pole on there, which is magnetised. This is actually the banner pole from Egrim van Horstman. I didn't put it on the dragon because it would have made him too tall, so I've magnetised it onto the chariot. So I think that looks pretty cool, and then I've converted slightly by changing the arm on this charioteer as well. So a little bit unique. This one can potentially be a BSB when I wanted to. Not in this list because we're a bit tight on character points, so just 2 regular chariots. And that is my entire army. So, onto the evil chaos. Mine are obviously the good, this is the evil. So, let's start with the characters. It's a very compact list, this. We've got a Chaos Lord that is around about the same cost as mine. I think this one's like 15 points more than mine, possibly. So, Mark of Nurgle, as usual. Very different upgrades, though. So there's one Favour of the Gods, still, same as mine. Full plate armour. Demon Sword, which is drastically different. So the Demon Sword makes you much more dangerous, attacking-wise. It can give you extra attacks and a boost to your strength, but it can also hurt yourself. So it's a little bit dangerous. Then the Armour of Meteoric Iron, which I have generally stayed away from, but I can see value in it. In some instances, it's better than having a triple save. In other instances, it's clearly not. So if you're being shot by a million poison arrows, for example, then a triple save is going to be significantly better than having an armor save that can't be reduced of a 5+. And also having regeneration, which this one does not have, by the way. This is in a double save dragon. It's just 2 flat 5-up saves at all times, unless it uses the full plate armor. But even then, it's still just the 2 saves. But if you come up against something that's going to negate the regular armor save, for example in combat against something with really high AP, then you're still going to get the 5+ armor save, but my dragon wouldn't. And you're also, because your 2 saves that you're going to have, neither of those are regeneration. So that can help you out sometimes in combat resolution. Whereas if my dragon loses its armor save due to high AP, and I have my ward save and regeneration, still have 2 saves, but any regeneration saves that I make still go on the combat res. So there are times when the Armour of Meteoric Iron just having a double save is actually better. Not all the time, though. So do keep that in mind. We have got Rolando in the chat. We've also got Scott. Good evening. Yes, we might have some people in there that don't get to see these live very often. Usually I do them on Fridays, but I'm very busy tomorrow. So, straight as I got home from playing this game, started setting up. What have we got here in the chat? Rolando says, heard the rumours about the Old World Rules update. Yes, actually. I've seen a list of potential things that are rumoured to be tweaked in the rules, potentially to favour infantry and to rein in some of the other things, and a tweak to Linehammer. I don't think Linehammer is really in need of a nerf as such. You just need to buff infantry in such a way that it's not beneficial to go into Linehammer formation, rather than nerfing Linehammer, because I don't think it's particularly overpowered, it's just silly, and you don't want infantry to have to do that to compete. Scott says, happy you're using Warriors of Chaos army. I'm playing my 2K tournament this weekend. Excellent. Have you got any classic Warriors of Chaos, though, or is it all new scum? Chaos Lord on Manticore. Interesting. I haven't seen anyone running one of those yet. I think the Manticore model is actually available, isn't it? They don't sell a Chaos Lord on Dragon, which is very weird. Some new, some old. I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people, because there are some units you just can't buy. So, for example, if you want an authentic Chaos Dragon, and not just a repurposed dragon from another range, then you generally have to go quite old school. Rolando says, building Warriors of Chaos and 3 Chaos Chariots. Very nice. I do like chariots. I really like the models. I'll probably try and get some even older ones at some point. I'm keeping an eye on a couple of chariots that are for sale that I've seen around about on the internet to see if I want any more, but 2 for now. At some point maybe I want a wizard on a chariot, so maybe I could do with 1 more. Okay, so that is the Chaos Lord. Very scary in combat. Should be a pretty close fight with mine, but I think the triple save would give me a slight edge if it comes down to it, them fighting against each other. It would be close though. Against fighting other things, I think maybe this one has the edge and would possibly chew through units faster because of the Demon Sword giving it more attacks sometimes. So that could help out there. We've got a Sorcerer Lord down here who has the Mark of Tzeentch along with these Chaos Warriors as well. They also have the Mark of Tzeentch. It's 13 of them, which means they're going to give him +1 on casting spells, which is nice. And the Sorcerer does have the Infernal Puppet, so I don't have it, my opponent does, so that means I'm going to be rolling 3 dice for my spells and discarding the highest if I'm within 24 inches of that wizard, and the wizard is not in combat. So my plan is to put that wizard in combat, just so you know. It's also got the Spell Familiar, and Ruby Ring of Ruin as well, and Dark Magic, so a different law of magic to me. I've told you about the Chaos Warriors with the Mark of Tzeentch. Then we've got a blob of 20 Chosen Chaos Warriors. This is a very expensive unit, 561 points. The Chosen Warriors with halberds, full plate armour, shields, Mark of Nurgle, drilled, full command, and the Banner of Rage, which I believe is Frenzy, so extra attacks. So this is a very scary unit compared to regular Chaos Warriors, but it's also very expensive. So ideally, I would prefer either get the dragon in there that could do a good job on them, or just not fight them at all would be great. Then I think we also went past the big line of Forsaken as well. So these are very interesting. 15 of them. They have a random number of attacks. They can potentially have quite a lot of attacks then. And let's see. They don't have anything fancy on them because you can't particularly upgrade them. You can't take command on them. They are, I think they're impetuous, immune to psychology, all kinds of cool stuff. Scott says, what happened to the old school Hero Quest Chaos Warriors? If you're referring to the Hero Quest Chaos Warrior that I've got in my army here, you can see there's one from Hero Quest in the front rank there. I have actually got some more that someone sent me, so if I want to expand the unit I can add even more of the Hero Quest variant, but they do blend in nicely with the old GW ones there. Okay, so let's go back to the wide shot and discuss terrain here. So we were using the square-based command and control cards, but playing open battle conditions. And I won the roll, and I ended up choosing the terrain that has the building in the middle. What I was thinking was, my army is more mobile than the enemy's. I've got less rigid infantry blocks, and even mine can get around a bit. I can potentially get off the Steed of Shadows and fly somewhere 24 inches. So the army that would be most hindered by this big piece of terrain in the middle would be the more unwieldy blocks of my opponent. One of them is drilled, but still those are big, slow infantry units that might struggle to get around this thing, where most of my units are faster or smaller footprints. So I'm confident that I'll be able to kind of lock down certain enemy units on one side of the building or other. So that's my thinking there. The hills and the forests are mostly irrelevant in this game because we're not going to be doing any shooting because it's Chaos Warriors in a civil war. It is Warriors of Chaos versus Warriors of Chaos. It's just non-stop chaos action. So these are my opponent's spells here. Battle Lust, give a unit Frenzy and Hatred. Infernal Gateway, which is to teleport a friendly character. Stream of Corruption and Assailment. Word of Pain is a hex to reduce strength and toughness, potentially good if you're thinking of taking down a dragon. Blue Fire Magic Missile and Fireball from the Ruby Ring. My spells, I've gone for, first of all, Fireball from the Ruby Ring. I've gone for the Summoning Magic Missile as well. I think that's a very good spell in Demonology. Steed of Shadows, the MVP spell. Conveyance, potentially fly 24 inches or fly 12 and then start doing magic missiles. And the 2 buffs, Demonic Vessel and Demonic Vigor. Let's see. Which one? Range, self. Demonic Vessel is the one you can cast on yourself while you're still in combat, but they both still only last in your own turn. However, Steed of Shadows doesn't, interestingly. So there must be a situation where having the Fly 12 move on your opponent's turn makes a difference. If anyone can think of a way that that could come up, then let me know. So my opponent wins the roll-off and goes first, and the Eye of the Gods immediately put +1 weapon skill onto the Sorcerer. And Scott says fleeing. Would your own move characteristic be used on fleeing, though? Because it's just a number of dice, isn't it? The enemy dragon gets +1 attack for the rest of the game, which is quite scary. Well, the Chaos Lord will have the extra attack. The Chosen go into marching columns, so they can get across the table faster, and they've also got an upgrade on them as well. Let's see, what was it called? Is it the Taskmaster's Scourge? Which gives them, if he passes a leadership test, they get a bonus to their movement, so they can actually move quite far now. So they've got all the way down here with the dragon on the left. Oh, by the way, you can see this black base on my front line there is actually the dragon, but I didn't want to perch this very old metal model right on the edge of a hill where it could fall off. So the base is representing where the dragon actually is. So, the reason I've got my Shartak over here, because this unit of frenzied chosen warriors can potentially be baited. And if they're just chasing around one Shartak, they're not going to get a lot of points for that. So the Dragon Ogres here are meant to deter any kind of flanking maneuver by the enemy if they want to get into the juicy flank where my expensive units are, because these warriors and the sorcerer, that's about 700 point unit there, dragon almost 600. So most of my points are in these two units here. And I've put my chariots and knights far away from the chosen. I just don't want to get into combat with them at all. I would rather splat into the units that are way more killable with the lower armor saves, the Forsaken and the regular Chaos Warriors. Okay, into my turn 1. So I get off Steed of Shadows, despite the Infernal Puppet being in range, so I'm able to move forward quite a bit and get out of the threat range of this dragon, which you can't see. Not sure if it can see them at the moment, but I can fly all the way up to here now anyway and still use my magic missiles if they go off with the Infernal Puppet around. I put my Shartak out of the charge arc of the dragon and the Chosen, and what I'm trying to do, I've kept the Dragon Ogres out of range of the Chosen as well. I would like the dragon to charge into the Dragon Ogres, and the Chosen to advance, and then let me have a flank charge with the Shartak. That would be nice. Or if the dragon makes it in there and the combat doesn't totally wipe out the Dragon Ogre unit, then I could maybe flank charge the dragon. We shall see. But as I was saying about the Dragon Ogres, the reason for not having a champion in there is for when they face a dragon. If there is a champion, normally the Shartak will have to accept the challenge, they'll die. The rest of the Dragon Ogres can't fight back, and you will have lost the combat by a sufficient margin so that you then run away and die. Unless you've got your general nearby and using the slightly better leadership. But even then you're going to have lost by quite a bit and you're going to start falling back. Next turn you die. My thinking is if I don't have a champion, then on average, before stomps, you would think that maybe one and a bit Dragon Ogres could survive the initial round of attacks from the dragon. I don't think that's too much of a stretch. So that means you're having 2 full strength Dragon Ogres hitting back at the dragon with their strength 7 great weapons. So potentially you can get some wounds in that way. Especially because with 3, that's the perfect amount for hitting a dragon as well, because it's going to land smack in the middle. All 3 of them are going to get all their full attacks if they're not dead. Let's see, Scott, trying to think of a reason. Yeah, does anyone have anywhere in the rules that you would use your move characteristic or the ability to have a fly 12 move in your opponent's turn? Anywhere that would come up? Because I can't really think of one off the top of my head. I'm thinking of all the different things you would do, and none of them involve making a fly move. Okay, what if you were pursuing? Would you be able to pursue with the fly special rule if you were pursuing the enemy on their turn? I don't know. I'm sure someone will have a very good answer as to why it is useful. Then he says countercharge. Let's see, I think Steed of Shadows is only on infantry, isn't it? So I don't know whether any infantry even have countercharge. Okay, so also on my turn, the dragon has moved up right in front of the Forsaken because I want to get charged by them because I think the dragon will just completely obliterate them. With the Strike Last ability, the dragon and the Chaos Lord are going to get all their attacks in first, hopefully wipe the front rank, and then the rest of them can't do anything. If the Forsaken do get to strike, they are actually scary with their random bonus they get on their attacks and a large amount of attacks, but with this dragon I don't mind being charged at all. Then the Chariots and the Knights have moved up as well to support, so if we end up in any kind of prolonged combat, or if it goes slightly wrong for the dragon and it ends up losing, then I'd fall back into range so that these other units can strike. Most importantly, I'm keeping them away from the enemy dragon because they're things that would just get gobbled up. Scott says, no, the countercharge is just D3+1. Yeah, so it's very interesting the way that it continues until your next start of turn subphase. So surely there must be somewhere that it would come up. Turn 2 for the enemy. So, Eye of the Gods. Oh, by the way, I only got temporary buffs on Eye of the Gods in this turn, so I didn't bother taking a picture of the tokens because they were irrelevant because I didn't get into combat. The enemy dragon is now on +1 attack and +1 weapon skill, very scary. And the wizard is on +1 strength and leadership, which is the best one you can get. Extra leadership for the chaos characters is always good because they don't start off at 10. A Battle Lust is cast onto the Forsaken, so they're going to have hatred now and frenzy against the dragon. The enemy dragon charges the 3 dragon ogres, makes it in, and the Forsaken obviously make it into my dragon, and I've put the little black base there again just so it's not too pokey. It's not so much that it's impossible to fit them together, it's that I don't want anything nudging against the paint on the dragon. It is varnished, but I don't trust metal to not get chipped if you're constantly pushing it back and forth into enemy units, even if they're plastic. So the Chosen decide to totally disrespect the Shartak and just walk right past him. So he's not going to be very happy about that, and he's definitely going to have to recharge them now for that insult. But they obviously don't care about that possibility. There's Chaos Lord and Dragon swings the flail in the shape of a sword, and the dragon chomps down and kills a big chunk of the Forsaken before they get to strike, but they do a wound to the dragon, and then they fall back in good order. I do not go after them, because what my plan here is to charge into this unit of Chaos Warriors who lie within my front arc, because they have an expensive wizard in there, and if I can get that wizard in combat, that means Infernal Puppet is off the table. No Infernal Puppet at all while that wizard's in combat. So that's what the dragon wants to do. Charge in there. The Chaos Warriors then have a choice because they've got... Well, you'll see what they've got now. Because all the Dragon Ogres get killed. Very sad. And the enemy dragon turns round to stare at the flank of my army. So, my unit of Chaos Warriors with a Sorcerer obviously don't want to get flank charged by Chosen, so they're going to be moving away. They're going to try to move about here somewhere, and then magic missile the Forsaken, because the dragon's going to be swooping over them. And then my Chariots and Knights are just going to stay out of charge range of the dragon and provide backup. So, turn 2 for me. Dragon makes the charge into the Chaos Warriors with the Sorcerer in there, and they pass their terror check. You can see my magic missiles only killed a few of the Forsaken, so there's still 4 left, sadly. The Shartak charges in, and the Chosen make their ward saves, so he does no damage at all, and then takes 1 wound in retaliation, and loses the combat and runs away. Doesn't get caught, though. So very embarrassing behaviour from Mr. Shartak there. You can see he loses the combat by 2, looks like. Well, the dragon chomps down on loads of the Chaos Warriors. Well, I say that, but he really chomped down loads of times on the champion first, who issued a challenge. And then the rest of them decided that was too terrifying and they ran away. And then the dragon caught them and gobbled them all up, including the enemy sorcerer, so no more infernal puppet. So, the moral of the story so far is that dragons murder whatever they touch. So everyone else on the table should be very wary now. And I'm then able to, because I caught the enemy, I'm then able to pass the leadership test and turn my dragon round, because I'm now in the nice position. All my units are covered by my dragon. So particularly this unit of Chaos Warriors, which couldn't get out of charge range of the enemy dragon. It's quite a long charge, but it's still available to it. It could be made. So it's average length, the charge. So these Chaos Warriors may well be attacked by a dragon. So we want my dragon covering this area, so that if there is a dragon in here, I can then charge it. The chariots and the knights were positioned in such a way that they're not in range to be charged by the enemy dragon. So it's just over 19 inches away, so it's not declarable. So those guys up in the top left are dead. So the Shartak's fleeing but still alive, and then all these units are alive. So there's not actually that many units on the table to begin with, and some of them are now dead. So into the enemy turn, we've got a Chaos Warrior sandwich. The 4 Forsaken and the enemy Chaos Lord blast into the Chaos Warriors unit. I would be hopeful of surviving one round, because of course there's quite a lot of models in there, so I'm probably not going to be double outnumbered at the end of it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show a challenge because the dragon is not in the rank that has all my characters in it, and that rank is also engaged in combat, and the Forsaken do not have a champion. Then he says, if a unit with Steed of Shadows flees in your opponent's turn after losing combat and flees through another friendly unit, then it caused panic. If they had fly, they wouldn't. I'm not sure. That's an interesting thought, though. So yeah, there must be some advantage to it. And in fact, does Steed of Shadows even say that you gain the fly special rule or whatever until the end of the turn? Or does it just say they can make a fly 12 move? Or does it add it to their profile in the same way it would do like a dragon, so they would have it all the time? Scott says, yeah, they would fly over them. So yeah, maybe there's a small benefit we found there. Let me know if you've got any more of those in the comments afterwards, by the way, anyone who's not watching this live, because that's going to be interesting to hear. The Chosen charge at the Shartak just to keep it fleeing. And let's see what happens with this sandwich then. Well, lots of Chaos Warriors died. I then rolled, I think it was 11 on the leadership test. So they ran away, and the enemy dragon caught them. So, let's see. Benny says it's worded, it gains the fly 12 special rule. Okay, yeah, so the rule would be relevant for flying over troops if you're fleeing or pursuing. So, this is where the enemy dragon landed after murdering my entire unit of Chaos Warriors with Sorcerer Lord in there. So no more magic on the table. I actually like the look of this though, because we've now got dragon versus dragon, which is going to be a fun fight, but also the Forsaken being here. Well, even if they weren't here, it would be a very similar story. If they weren't here, I would just slap everything into this dragon, everything that can physically get there with the wheeling involved and such. Because what I want to do is bring extra combat res in the dragon versus dragon battle. So a rear charge with a unit strength 5 unit of knights with a banner is a significant boost to combat res there. So that's what I want to do. But to get them into combat now, what I will have to do is get through the Forsaken. So I'm going to charge them with the chariot and the knights, and then overrun into the dragon, and then resolve the dragon combat, who is undoubtedly going to be a challenge, dragon versus dragon, so I'm not going to be able to actually inflict any hits on the dragon from these units. And then hopefully with the boost to combat res, that's going to be enough to keep winning against this dragon. Okay, the Shartak, you can see, still running away over there, and into my turn 3. So here we go, the Shartak runs off the table. Very disappointing, fails to rally. However, you may notice the enemy dragon has disappeared. So, I couldn't quite fit both chariots and the knights into the Forsaken because of the wheeling involved, so one chariot and the knights got in there. They murdered the Forsaken with a combination of impact hits, lance strikes, and I think a horse finished them off. So they then overrun into the dragon. Dragon versus dragon, I do some decent damage, but I also take 5 wounds in retaliation as well. So you can see, and I made a regen save to prevent a wound as well, so you can see that the enemy dragon got up to 7 combat resolution. However, I was able to do enough damage and the bonus combat res I brought in to get me up to 11. The enemy dragon then failed its leadership test, ran away, and died after being caught by my dragon. Wow. So, we both actually rolled quite badly defensively in this combat, because my triple save dragon took 5 wounds from the enemy dragon. The enemy dragon took round about that amount, maybe a little bit more, and actually wounded itself with the demon sword as well. So all of that combined was enough to push me over the edge, 4 up on combat res, and enemy dragon dead. So these games, if the 2 dragons fight each other, the game is often going to hinge on that. And because they're quite evenly matched, there's a good chance that they just don't kill each other for the whole game if they fight. If we kept swinging like we did in this game, then they probably would have killed each other pretty soon. But on average, you expect them to survive against each other with the good saves they have. And we don't have any multi-damage weapons. So, the person who's going to win is generally the one that can add some other element in their favour in the Dragon-off. Otherwise, it's just down to pure luck of who has a good round of attacks. And whether one of them finishes up dying or not, or whether they both just survive the game on their last few wounds. So you need something to turn it in your favour, and in this case, my manoeuvrable backup units that I had available, the knights and the chariots, were able to get in there and add some combat res, which ultimately swung it, so my dragon was able to reign supreme. So if you are going to get into a dragon battle, and you're not 100% sure it's going to go your way, if you think it's very evenly matched, or maybe even you're outmatched, look at what else you can bring to the table, and can you bring anything else to the table? Because if not, the 2 dragons theoretically can just avoid each other for the whole game. You can't force a dragon to engage with your dragon very easily, unless you've got multiple. But if it's just 1 dragon each, they can just fly out of each other's charge arcs if they don't want to fight. So you can't force that to happen. What we ended up with, if we go back a few pictures, this situation here, this is such a juicy number of points. This is a 700 point unit. But killing them is going to put the dragon clearly in this kill zone that I've created here, with my dragon and the knights and the chariots all staring into this area. So, what were some other options available here? Potentially, the enemy dragon not being the one to pursue the Chaos Warriors. You do run the risk that they just don't get caught if you're not using the swift striding monster to try and chase them down, though. If you're, for example, just using the Forsaken instead, they would have to turn around and start running off that way. But that would mean that the dragon then isn't going to get charged by chariots, and you just have to face dragon time one-on-one. But that's, in other games, that's not always going to be the case, that you have the option to chase with a different unit. But it's a good reason to throw something else in with the dragon, because if you want to pursue with the dragon, because it leaves you in a favourable area, then all good. But in this situation, I think this is a spot the dragon didn't really want to be in, because of the extra combat res that was going to head in to help out, which is what ultimately swung it. So I think maybe this dragon would have been better off just hanging back here. And if the fight goes on long enough, eventually the backup will arrive, because the knights take a turn turning around, the chariots will turn around and look down here as well. But because of fall back in good order, then potentially the combat doesn't necessarily stay in this spot anyway. It could shimmy back and forth across the table, so it's not necessarily the easiest to get the backup lined up correctly. And you have to make sure it's in the right facing. So yeah, I think a bit more conservatism from the dragon, the enemy dragon, maybe would have helped out there. But as it is, we had the dragon fight. My dragon reigns supreme. And we've still got this unit of Chosen left to deal with, though. They're still alive. And you can see my dragon, after the pursuit and capture and murder of the enemy dragon, turns to face them. Turn 4 for the enemy. They just drill out a bit and face my dragon. Now, technically, there will come a point where they can't become any wider, because they should be bunched up to one end, and then the guy there wouldn't be able to reach the other end, for example, to add more ranks. Unless it's a unit where you can just keep adding them to the same side. I'm still not 100% clear on that. Some people play it that if you don't have a command group, you can keep adding to one side with drilled. Some people play it so you have to do it evenly. Some people even do it so that you can add them all to one side and then the command group shuffles as it goes along. So I could think that could do with some clearer rulesing. So nothing exciting there. Turn 4 for me. The dragon just lands right in front of the enemy unit, but becomes stupid as well, which is hilarious. My dragon seems to become stupid in almost every game. So just landing in front of them despite being down to 4 wounds. In a tournament setting, I don't think I would attempt this. Because if you look at this situation, I'm currently up on points. I've got a dragon on 4 wounds. I don't need to engage. All my units are faster than the enemy, so I could just run away and hide for the rest of the game at a tournament and just take the small to medium win that it currently is. But because it's not a tournament, let's just have some fun and do some murdering. So turn 5, the enemy charge into the dragon, and we've got full-on line hammer here. But what we do discuss, though, is to prevent me issuing a challenge, the enemy champion, or the enemy are going to have to leave a back rank, so that when the enemy champion refuses the challenge, he can then join the back rank. So if you don't have a back rank, you can't join it to refuse a challenge, is my understanding. So we've got an extra rank in there, so the enemy champion can join the back rank now. And then my dragon chomps down loads of them. The reason for refusing a challenge in this situation is because you've gone full line hammer, so clearly you want to swing those halberds at the dragon, because it's only got 4 wounds left and you think you've got a chance of killing it. We've all been there. I've had the really long lines of dwarf rangers with their great weapons. As the dragon charges in, you think, this is the turn, I'm going to swing all those great axes at you and kill you. It never actually happens, but theoretically. So, various Chosen are dead, and they fall back in good order. I do not follow them, which I immediately regret, actually, because I remembered that the dragon is stupid, so you want to be in combat so you don't have the chance to fail that stupidity test. But my thinking is, don't go after the enemy if I've got the next turn, because the flail only gets its strength bonus in the first round of combat, so you want it to always be the first round of combat. Then he says, one part of the old world I don't like, the reforming stuff. There is a lot of weirdness with reforming and skirmishes. There's various weird things in the rules that could do with being tidied up. And hopefully, the rumours of this rules pack, or these slight modifications to the rules that are going to come out, maybe in book form, maybe in PDF form, the rumours are saying, then perhaps we'll get some tweaks that move more towards what we want the game to be. Which is big blocks of infantry, but not Death Stars dominating, and skirmishers and dragons reined in a little bit, so they're not quite so dominant. Still want dragons to be powerful, but not this powerful. Because as it stands, I'm sure I've gone on about this before, if I brought nothing else in this game, just my dragon, I would still like my chances of giving it a good go. Because I think I could kill quite a few of these units with my dragon, even without any backup. So you charge 2,000 points for a dragon and say, okay, that's your entire army. I think a lot of people would happily take that and just win games still with just a dragon. Against any normal balanced army, one dragon can win, especially if it's a triple save dragon. Scott says, if variables pop down to the TSN arena on Sunday, I'd love to meet you. If you're Nottingham based, it would be good to arrange games together for it. Yes, that sounds good, because I probably will be able to get down there on Sunday at some point. Going to the UK Games Expo on Saturday. which is going to be exciting. And I should probably pop into the TSN on the Sunday. I'll be able to see what's going on down there for the Old World event this week. The next one I'm signed up for, by the way, let me just check my calendar here. Little notebook with all my events mapped out in it. Next Old World, when is it? One in July there. Is that the next Old World? It might be, actually. We've got some other game systems before then, and I'm obviously going to be playing lots of practice games. But there's definitely one in July. Before that, I think we've got Age of Sigmar and Star Wars Shatterpoint as well. July is quite busy, actually. We've got Old World, Kings of War. Let's see. Yeah, all the different game systems going on in July. That's a very busy month. Exciting times ahead. I'm trying to do one of each game system per month. But obviously that doesn't always work out. So Old World, Age of Sigmar, Kings of War, Star Wars Shatterpoint, the 4 main tournament systems I'm trying to play in at the moment. Sometimes they end up clashing with each other, sometimes I'm just doing something else on those weekends and can't do them. So that's what I'm aiming for ideally. It's unrealistic, obviously, to play an event every single week. And it does get expensive as well. Okay, so the dragon is obviously going to be chomping through these chosen, as long as I don't fail all my saves, go through the turns, and eventually the champion is the last one alive, runs away, gets caught, dies. It's a win for my Chaos Lord on dragon. So obviously it came down to the dragon battle, and the fact that I had my backup waiting there. So I do think, though, that the pivotal moment wasn't necessarily just that. It was diverting my dragon into the enemy Chaos Warriors with the enemy Sorcerer that had the Infernal Puppet as well, was quite a big deal. And then not worrying about finishing off the Forsaken. And also, both our dragons, when they were ignoring each other and just gobbling up enemy units, they could have very well kept on doing that for the whole game. But because my dragon was able to then turn round and look at my units, I was then able to support them. Which meant that the enemy dragon couldn't just go in and eat something and not be punished for it. So, a good outing there. I feel like it was a slightly better matchup for my army than it was for my opponents, because I've got more units that can avoid a dragon. Chariots and cavalry and dragon ogres are much faster than regular infantry, smaller footprint, they can get out of charge arcs more easily. Whereas the big wide infantry blocks that my opponent had were never going to be able to escape from my dragon. So I think I had the slight edge there. Infernal Puppet gave my opponent the slight edge on spellcasting, but of course I had more magic resistance in some of my units as well, which made it... that did equalise it a little bit. There are a few spells that didn't go off because of that. So, a successful outing for the Warriors of Chaos. First game for the Chariots. They managed to kill, well, one of them got some combat in, killed some Forsaken, and then got into the rear of the enemy dragon with the Knights. This one didn't actually get to fight anything. That's sad. What I'm thinking is, with the Chaos Dragon, occasionally you'll be up against a very slow army, and you can combo charge in with the Chariot. And then the dragon will take a challenge of a unit champion, for example, whereas the chariot can then dish out impact hits on the unit. And hopefully be a net positive in combat resolution because of those impact hits. So I think that's what I'm going to try and use them for. They're 110 points, the chariots. The Shartak on his own is 92 points, I think, with all the upgrades, which is a 2-up save. And a ward save against flaming attacks and a great weapon. The only thing, the Shartak... what does a Shartak not have over a chariot? Because they're the same speed. So, yeah, I'm talking myself out of it. But I think Shartaks are just really good. I don't think you can measure everything against Dragon Ogres. I think they're very strong. Not the best against dragons, as you saw in this game. But in general, I think they're very good. Chariots, though, do have the impact hits on their side, which is what they have over the Dragon Ogres. Okay, it's about time to wrap this one up. Obviously, Chaos were always going to win, but thankfully it was the good side of the Chaos, not the evil modern Chaos. It was the nice old school Chaos. Speaking of old school, by the way, if you want a sneak preview of what's next in my army, 2 very generous souls have given me some models, many of them from the 80s, some 80s infantry, and some very, very old cavalry as well. Yeah, because I put up that video detailing the progress on my Chaos Warriors army, lots of people got in touch with me. Some of them saying, hey, can I just send you some Chaos stuff? I think it would be cool to see it in your army. And I've generally said, yes, you may send me those things, unless it's something I don't think I'm going to use, because I don't want to just take things off people that I don't think will get used in the army. So there have been a couple of things where I've said I don't think I'd be able to use that, so don't waste it on me. And then other people have messaged and offered to sell me things at pretty reasonable prices, actually. And there was one guy in particular who I think got annoyed because I took like a week responding, because I got like swamped with people offering me models, and the message just drops right off the page. So, uh-oh. But in this big box of metal goodies I've got right here, there's some very, very old school stuff in here. So you can look forward to some updates on the army in general very soon. As soon as I've finished painting some Ewoks for Star Wars Shatterpoints, they're next on my painting table, then it's back for more chaos. So, don't forget to check out all the links in the description, various social media shenanigans down there, and if you want me to attend vastly more tournaments and keep buying more old school chaos stuff, then why not pledge your entire life savings in the Patreon or PayPal links down there as well. I've actually been thinking about doing something with the Patreon, because it's apparent that I'm not really offering anything for it other than I will go to more events and buy more stuff. So I don't know whether I should start doing some kind of like content specifically for the Patreon people. I don't know whether like doing live stream painting sessions or something on top of what I already do, obviously, because I don't want to paywall my content, but something that might thank the people that are already on there and also potentially entice more people in. That could be interesting. That, or like playing Warhammer computer games or something. That could be interesting, live streaming that for Patreon people. Something I'm pondering anyway. Let me know what you think about that idea. Okay. All that remains to be said, other than like and subscribe and all that YouTube nonsense, is good night out there, whatever you are.